Sad to say, this episode didn't nearly happen today. The beauty of family businesses where sometimes you can have a pop at each other and it doesn't really matter too much. And I think that strengthens a company. And we have got it right, but that doesn't mean you don't piss me off from time to time. Anyway, I want to do a quick fire with you. Who's got the best sense of humour?
I know you think you've got the best sense of humour. That's why you asked the question.
What was the first sign of resistance that you remember?
I remember you playing like World of Warcraft or whatever it was.
It's becoming more obvious now that the time between our parents looking after us to us looking after them is closely approaching, if not already here. But I think it's important for men to go through that rite of passage, don't you think?
Yeah, no, I completely, I do agree.
Where do you see your role fitting?
Mediating a lot more. I feel like, you're very similar to Dad, for example. Leaving you two in a room together, eventually it can come to a blow.
Sad to say, this episode didn't nearly happen today. There was some family dynamics that we needed to work out. And it seems to happen, I think, periodically for us. We are very different as people. And there was a bit of friction yesterday. Obviously, for everybody that doesn't know, we obviously work together in a business, which is challenging at times. And
we're brothers.
We're brothers.
Funnily enough.
And clues in the name. There's a bit of friction, and I think it's important for us to just talk about them open on air, live and direct, and just go into some of the details about our relationship, how we manage both in business together, and some of the things that actually crop up from time to time. So I'll go first.
Shock.
Obviously, my role in the business is very different to yours. So I'm sort of managing director of the company, which involves making the decisions based on the general direction of the company, the actual understanding of where to allocate certain finances, where we need to move the direction of the team into achieving an end result that has obviously both been agreed by us. So it's not that there's any more control on my side than it is yours, but there's a general agreement that I drive the general direction, which obviously comes as a strange dynamic with you being the older brother and me being the younger one. But within a business, you sometimes have to put personal relations aside, and we have to operate professionally, which, if you've not been involved in a family business before, is quite strange for people to understand and wrap their head around, because it's a very different relationship professionally than it is personally. And I pissed you off the other day. I think you pissed me off the other day a little bit. And
probably.
centered around a meeting where we were doing a management review of an area of the business, which obviously was a joy as always to do. And it came to light that there were a few occasions that decisions had been made that I had not been made aware of. And obviously as MD, that's important that I'm sort of involved in those decisions, and I hadn't been. So I'm quite quick to get quite bitter and sort of throw a bit of a strop about things. So within a meeting, I think I'd become probably a bit short-tempered and probably threw a few shots out. But over to you. What did you think?
Yeah, well, again, it's like we've been working in the family business, not even in the dynamic we're in at the minute, for a long time. Like with Dad, like obviously, started 10 years ago, probably more now, I suppose. Where it's with him, it was very much, you're in a learning stage with him where it's you kind of like sit down, shut up, listen, learn, and that's for a good 5-6 years, that's what makes sense. But obviously that dynamics changed when now he's moved out of the business. And I suppose what happened, it was just I didn't disagree with what the premise, but yeah, like you say, it's similar with dad. Sometimes it can just be that it's easy to say now to step someone to a side, like, oh yeah, we need to talk about that after. But like you say, I can understand from your point of view that, you know, you found something out that you would need to know about, and I've not told you and done it myself. And it's not that anything's gone wrong necessarily. Well, it hasn't yet, but you know, it's about keeping the communication going. Like we've said in other episodes, it's about keeping communication strong. And if it doesn't, then people kind of can run off in different directions and do their own thing.
Yeah, it's the beauty of family businesses where sometimes you can have a pop at each other and it doesn't really matter too much. And I think that strengthens a company. So for us, it's a strange dynamic. I think we've grown up for the vast majority of our lives with a strange dynamic of you being an older brother, me being a younger brother, but a lot of people generally tend to assume I'm older.
Because you look old.
That's part of it. But also people generally tend to assume that, I think, because of my traits and characteristics as a person. And then compared to yours, and again, they complement each other well, which is nice. And going into a family business, it's got so many benefits to it, because more often than not, there's so much trust that can be derived from working with family, provided you've got a good foundation within the family. Now, obviously, money can really separate a relationship quite quickly, whether there's not enough of it or whether there's too much of it. That generally tends to be when it's one extreme or the other. That's where things happen. And our dad went into business with his twin, so his brother as well. They were the same age, and it ended in chaos. It was very. There was a big tax bill that was due for them to be paid. One of them said, "I'm not paying it." The other one said, "Well, I've got no choice. We need to pay it." And you've got these two big personalities fighting at each other for a decision to be made, and one fled the country, is not allowed back, and is somewhere abroad, and left our dad with the bill for £500,000. So, cheers, uncle.
Not a small amount of money there.
Not a small amount, and this was 20 years ago. So £500,000 back then, accounting for inflation. You know, even if we call it $1 million or just south of, it's a large sum of cash, and it's paid off now. But that's the thing with family relationships and family business. It can really strengthen as long as you've got it right, and we have got it right. But that doesn't mean you don't piss me off from time to time. And equally, it's the same for me. So probably, I'm sure it's the same for you with me.
Yeah, I think as well. We grew up with a dad that's very much, you know, cavalier with his approach. Where even silly things, where you know, we'd sweep the drive and he'll come out and he'd say, "What you've done is a load of shit." And you're like, at the time when that first started to happen, you were kind of like, "Jesus Christ!" Like, yeah, I've tried. Like, I've done a bit. You like, could I do better? Well, yeah. And so you're like, right, begrudgingly, you do it again. But then that's been instilled. So I think when things happen, it is a bit water off a duck's back, because it's, you know, we've kind of been through that our entire lives, really, because we've been shouted at and belittled. I mean, if you want to use that word, I mean, yeah, fair enough. But like, it's, you know, we've been shouted down and talked to, and it's instilled that you got to do things properly and be open about it. And, you know, Dad's been very good at instilling those values into us.
Yeah, I think belittled is the wrong word. I'd say coached. Coached and guided. I think everybody sort of jumps to an immediate defensive victim mindset. And when you work with family, I think that's the easiest person. If you can't be honest with your family, who can you be honest with? That's the reality that most people generally fall short on now, is that no one tells their truth anymore, because everyone's hiding behind a character or hiding behind a mask. They don't really want to find themselves in a position where they have to call someone out on their shit, or they don't want to have to share a story of struggle. And we find actually now that because we're 12 years into a working relationship almost, it makes life much easier for us to be able to say, you know, you've really pissed me off, or you've done this, apart from the other day when you were like, well, I'm not coming in the car with you today because you've upset me.
Yeah, I think you've been on a bit of a you've been on a tear from what I was hearing from a few different people. So it wasn't even so much the work stuff. It was, I think Mum got a bit upset about something, and Dad, we can get on his, he can get a bit precious sometimes. So then and then it's like, oh, wow, he's bloody did it with me today as well. So he's like, so I think you'd got a hat trick on everyone. And so we need,
I get pissed off because people, I'm the last person to cry or play the victim card. And this is what the conversation centered around last night when we were on the phone. Anyone can take a situation that has happened to them or with them and look for a negative and then use it to find a means to be offended or a means to be a victim. And I just find that whole mindset is so damaging, and it's just never conducive to a good relationship with people. Because the one thing that, as I've grown up and grown to understand now, I'm sort of 30 this year in 2 months, God help me.
You old bastard.
Yeah. But I think I've just come to realise that you're never going to avoid the fact that people are going to chat shit. People are always going to bitch. People are always going to talk about you behind your back, whether it's your best mate, whether it's your mom, whether it's your dad, your brother, whoever it is. People are going to chat shit about you behind your back. And some of it is not always true.
Apart from you.
No, including me. I definitely do it. But not generally from a place of malice.
Yeah.
But people have a version of events. Like we always say, you've got 3 versions of the truth. Is that their truth, my truth, and the truth, which is generally sometimes in the middle. But feelings are subjective. So I could say a series of 3 words, and those 3 words might just go straight over your head. But another person might take huge offense and cry, sit in a corner and call the police and say that's the worst thing I've ever heard. And it's just, everyone's got a different tolerance for certain things. Like you go to comedy shows and somebody says a fat joke and somebody starts crying and saying,
what, the fat people?
Generally. But it's one of those where those people then start comparing that stand-up to Adolf Hitler and saying, you've made a fat joke. How dare you? You've hurt my feelings, and therefore you are worse than a man that was accountable for the death of millions of people. And it's like, well, how on earth have you come to that conclusion? But they say it and they mean it. But that's because that is founded in their truth, which is subjective. So the point I'm making is that I understand now that everyone is going to talk and feel and chat shit, or also just tell their version of the truth based off of how they've felt around a situation. Now, I explain the situation to you of what my version was, and then you were like, actually, there's probably a bit of an overreaction on the one side, or actually, I've thought about it and I can't be as mad as you as I first thought. And the problem nowadays is that everybody takes their first feeling that they get told. And I was speaking to my mate last night who I live with now. And I said to him, isn't it funny that if I listened to other people's opinions of you, I would think you were the worst human on planet Earth? And he goes, that's funny because I'd think the same of you. And I was like, and I said, well, mate, I think there's a problem if everyone's saying the same thing. I said, if everybody thinks we're a pair of dickheads, maybe we are a bit of a dickhead. But that's the reality. We'll work on that, obviously. But,
I was going to say, I don't think I've got that problem.
No, but again, I have got quite strong opinions. But the point is that if you listen to everybody else's opinion and everybody else's version of events and everybody else's story, then you're not going to have any beliefs of your own. You're just going to believe what everybody else tells you. And so I think everybody should spend a bit more time being less immediately judgmental and actually wait until you've heard every side of the story. And you'd probably find actually that you're going to fall somewhere in the middle of the two rather than just jumping to the conclusion.
This is why, again, we said it on another one, communication and talking to the other side or talking to the source and actually getting to the bottom of the things that they're saying and the things that they're doing, whether it's politics or whatever it might be, you'll find that unless you're just completely lost and you just don't even want to pay attention to something that someone's saying, but if you've got a pragmatic approach, you can absorb some of it and excrete the rest and like take what's valuable and take what's not, or you can agree with some stuff and disagree with other things. And you can say, oh yeah, I can see why you've done that. Oh no, I don't agree with that. How you handled that one. And it's just about taking a logical stance to stuff. And I think the more that people do it, the better off people are going to be. Ty, I don't know about you, but I feel like we're having a great video, but there's some serious ingredient missing.
I've just checked the recipe book code and I've looked. There's no subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button below because this video is cooking.
We're waiting.
I want to do a quick fire with you in a quick change of events. Few quick questions, right? Who do you think is the most sensitive in our family?
The most sensitive? Well, I suppose Mum.
Who do you think is the most generous?
I suppose it depends. Well, Dad, probably.
Take it.
It depends on what you mean. If things and buying stuff and time, I don't know. Yeah, I probably would still say Dad, especially like if you accumulate all the time and things that, yeah, I would say
I'd
Dad.
have said Mum's the most, Dad's the most sensitive. I agree that he's also the most generous. Who's got the best sense of humour?
I know you think you've got the best sense of humour. That's why you asked the question. Yeah, probably Mum.
Who's got the biggest heart?
Probably Mum, I suppose.
Mum seems to be winning the battle in your eyes. Who do you think's the favourite child?
Depends. Well, depends on the day, and it depends which parent. Probably.
Who got into the most trouble at school?
Me. I almost got expelled. Well, I suppose who got more detentions? I don't know. Is that?
Can't imagine you being disruptive whatsoever.
I was terrible. I was almost expelled. I was in detention.
That was
probably
for
about
one-off.
Well, it was a pretty big one-off.
You hacked a school. Like, it was like barely. You just found a drive and copied it onto a memory stick.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Although
pretty bad.
Didn't the whole year lose their coursework?
I started handing it around. I pressed the. Well, I have to explain it now. Most schools, secondary schools, have a computer system whereby they can control the computers, check on what you're doing, make sure that you're not messing around playing games and all this sort of stuff. They also have buttons to, blank off people's screens where it will say, please face the front, your teacher wants your attention, all this sort of stuff. Anyway, I was in a food tech class and I found this laptop. I know you already know the story, but for sort of everyone else. And found this laptop and there was this icon that didn't look like anything I'd seen before. So I've clicked on it, just seen a load of names like on this screen. I'm like, hell. I double clicked into it and just opened someone's desktop, like moving the mouse around. And someone in the class is obviously like, oh, what's going on with my computer? And I'm like, oh my God, what the hell? So then I've gone off. There's an attention button, pressed it. And then all the screens in the entire room, including the teacher's board that projects onto the screen, said, your teacher wants your attention. Please face the front. So I was like, oh my God. So then that, like an idiot, I distributed that, or I've saved it on a memory stick. I found out how to extract it, put it on a memory stick, then sold it around. No, I didn't do that. It went around the school that I had it around certain people. I started giving it out like an idiot. And then a main case was a sixth former's work got deleted in front of their face just before it was about to be handed in. Wasn't my fault. I didn't delete it. I don't know who did. Then there was a school investigation. They said they're going to get the police involved. I got called in. And yeah, obviously it didn't end up going down very well.
Yeah.
I was then in isolation with the really bad kids and then I started selling drugs. No, I didn't do that.
It's usually how it goes from hacking the school. I'm surprised you don't work for that. What's the?
I ended up getting a gold tooth.
Is it anonymous or something?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
I'm surprised you don't work there. But
got a job in North Korea. Hacking systems.
I mean, yeah, I get
That was
it.
the main one. But yeah, and then detentions every now and again. I had to write lines once because I told a teacher to shut up. That wasn't great.
Yeah, right, okay. You can tell you went to a nice school when those are the worst things you did. You turned off a computer virus, or you like basically
I did him a favour, really.
Installed a computer program and you said the word "shut up." Yeah, it shows a sort of element of our background, obviously.
Yeah, I didn't quite bring a knife into school, put it that way.
No. Well, look, at the end of that, I just want to do a quick fun round because obviously every family's got different dynamics, and it's obviously strange to sometimes when we think of points of view that yours are different to mine, even within a same family. And we've just done a big episode talking about divisions within society that'll either be up now or coming up. And for us, it's one where it's about trying to put yourself in other people's shoes, and working in a family business is quite tough because the reality is you've got to navigate both a family dynamic as well as a professional dynamic. And the one thing that's easy to do with people that aren't a part of the business or a part of the family that are in the business, it's easy to have an element of authority over them just because we own the company. But then that sort of loggerhead comes where you are both trying to come to a decision or something that's happened that both of you have a valid point on, but somebody has to have the final say. Fortunately, it's me.
And I think, yeah, and there's obviously, Dad will get frustrated sometimes at things like that. And, I think, it's a very high pressure situation a lot of the time. It's not easy running a business and you got a team of people that you got to try and keep happy, coach. They've got to learn from you. They've got to respect you. They've got to like you in ways. They've got to want to learn from you. And then you've still got to then navigate the family element of it. You got to be a leader. You got to be a manager. You got to be like all these different things rolled into one person. So it's it's very stressful, and I get it. And obviously, when things happen, it's easy to take an emotional side of things where some people will get upset or some people will get aggressive. Some people will get it depends on people's temperament, and your temperament's cavalier. Mine's probably been a bit more quiet and reserved and having a little think maybe. So, but I can be quite aggressive and cavalier as well sometimes. I tend to get overruled on some of the stuff that they're in that domain. But I think it works well. And, if we were both exactly a carbon copy of either me or a carbon copy of you, the arguments would be off the scale if it was with you, and we'd get less done if it was just like how I was.
I've got a question I've never asked you before.
Always great to answer these live on air.
You started the business started within the business about 18 months after me. Maybe between 18 months and 2 years. What was your initial reaction at the time when I made the decision to then finally join?
No, just excited. I'll be honest, I literally could not tell you. I wouldn't even remember. I don't think I was. I just was like, oh yeah, great. I don't think I really had much of an opinion.
What was the first sign of resistance that you remember with me being there as opposed to not being there? Do you remember anything that stood out? Or what was the first, even if it was recent, but I mean, we're going back 10 years now, 11 years.
Yesterday?
That's the start. Do you remember was there nothing that must have surely
No,
yeah.
I remember one actually, because we had our friend working for us, Adam, and someone else we don't speak to anymore. But they were working for us, and I think again, like it must have been a very early stage, but again, I was working because I had been there longer, so I was doing a lot more. And I think you were playing. I remember you playing like World of Warcraft or whatever it was,
nice.
Like during lunch, but like way over an extended lunch, so you weren't putting it like as much effort in as say I was. So I was a bit like, oh, he's taking the piss. So I remember thinking like that at a time, yeah. Because I remember looking over
that being a regular occurrence.
It was at the time. Because you
think so.
This is like probably within the first year of you being there, when you were just sorting parts as well.
Maybe.
I know it's happened because Adam saw it as well. So
Adam,
you asked me the first
Adam,
thing.
a little grass.
But yeah, no, that's the first first memory that I'd think, oh bloody hell, what the hell?
Yeah, that was a period of time of life. There was an addiction to games, all the games, FIFA, Call of Duty, computer games, League of Legends was up there as well at the time. My God, the amount of hours I've wasted on those games. Although, do you know now, one of the biggest things that genuinely I hold myself to a high standard of like gratitude for playing them is
reaction time.
My speed at being able to use and utilize a computer with typing, shifting between tabs and understanding layouts is just allowed me to work so much faster and more efficiently than anybody else. So basically, if your mum's giving you a hard time complaining that you're playing too many games,
tell them to watch this podcast.
To shut up, because you're going to be an absolute grafter when you're older, unless you go work in a labour job and then probably put the controller down. But other than that, it's helped so much. And they do say, I saw it on Rogan.
Yeah, I saw this.
He said about the surgeons, the brain surgeons, I think surgeons in general that are consistently playing video games have a increased success rate for surgeries by something like 15 points up to like literally 65% over 50. It's something crazy, the difference between the two, because their ability to concentrate on a singular task for a long period of time that also requires a level of hand-eye coordination and dexterity is massive for them. So there you go. So actually, you say I wasn't working. I was working. So just because it wasn't...
Was it revision?
it was work. It was work. I hold it, in high regards these days. It helped me massively. So there you go. That's that argument fallen right on its head.
Yeah, got a customer from a raid or something.
What was the first time you noticed when me being a part of the business was a positive and it made you think, do you know what? I'm actually really grateful to have him here.
Probably when there's been arguments with Dad and we both could talk to each other and be like, yeah, he's been a dick. It's probably those times when Dad's laid into either me or you. Probably rightly, the premise was probably right at the time, but the way going about it was obviously, instead of being boss or leader and it was more Dad. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We are where we are now. But yeah, probably those sorts of times. And then, when you landed orders like the masks or something, and like T-bolts and stuff. Like when we started
£1 million.
Yeah, when we started to see
very
orders.
Proud of that order.
Yeah,
£1 million.
It wasn't for me. It wouldn't have come in.
Have you had an order for £1 million yet?
No, but I did help you get that one.
No, you didn't.
I did in a way. No,
nothing.
Because I got the first batch of sample gloves in which I'd sold on eBay, which then which started the whole selling gloves and masks on. Granted, it went very Pete Tong with gloves, but I don't know. That started off the annexter.
Bit of a reach.
Look, it's all butterfly effect. It's all right. You got the order.
In that case, Dad got the order.
Yeah, because he started the company.
He started us.
Well, yeah, I suppose.
And then, so in which case it was his dad. Yeah. But chicken and egg and all that. What about the family dynamic now, with regards to how it's shifted in the last, let's say, 2-3 years? And where do you think we're at now?
Yeah, I think 10 times better in a place of happiness and content. A lot of people, my missus, she'll go into work, or the day before she goes into work, she's like, oh, I'm dreading it. I don't want to go in and all this sort of stuff. Whereas with me, I'm like, can't wait, like buzzing. I want to get into work, look forward to it. Obviously, I like having a balance and going to the gym and spending time with my missus and then spending time with friends. But within the time that I'm working and even going into work, listening to books and all that sort of stuff, I love all that sort of stuff.
What about more now, personally deep diving into actually like family dynamics? So obviously we've both moved out now, been moved out for a long time. I think Daddy's 25. Dad's 62. I won't say old mum is, she'll kill us. But similar ages. I think the way I see it, I think now that it dawned on me, we've just been on a family holiday to Rhodes, and it dawned on me quite quickly there, where it's becoming more obvious now that the time between our parents looking after us to us looking after them is closely approaching, if not already here. And it's such a strange feeling for two men, certainly for myself, so I don't want to speak for you, to find yourself in a position where you know that you are now the best person to protect and you are the best person to provide for the family that you've spent now 30 years this year involved in, where our dad, the patriarch of the family, was the sole protector and provider. And it's a very strange feeling to know that that person is no longer best served for the job, in a sense. And I say that with all respect. And the reason I say it with all respect, it means he's done a good job. It means he's done a fucking phenomenal job, really. Because if he'd done a bad job, then unfortunately he would need to live into his 80s to maintain that level of patriarchy and be able to protect and provide for that length of time. And I don't feel it's fair for anybody to have to live into their 80s and still have to do that. But equally, that doesn't mean that we're sending him out to pasture. You know, he's still a very capable.
I don't know. He's on about going to Rhodes.
Yeah, but he's a very capable and still very sharp and intelligent, strong individual, and that will never change. That's just who he is. But it is a strange thing. I don't know whether you noticed it yet, where it's the little things that you know now. Like I said, in Rhodes, I was driving everybody around, and I was the one guiding us where to go and what we'll do and how to get there in times, and doing more of the own things and paying for dinners and paying for things, and saying, Dad, he had a bad back. And one of was he was sat down because he hadn't done his stretches in the morning, which, you know, it's important to stretch, everyone. Bit of yoga, Pilates is the craze at the minute.
And the lengths in the pool. So
yeah, he was doing his exercise, and, you know, he's still a fit, healthy guy, very for his age. He was suffering, he was at dinner, and I could tell his back was hurting. And so I thought nothing of just getting up, going over the road, finding a pharmacy, getting something for him to help him out. And that dynamic shift from being the son and the father to not, obviously that will never ever change. And I've got all the respect and love in the world for him. But to see that dynamic switch to go, actually, this is my job now. And I've always really cherished that relationship with Dad, because I've always seen him as that leader of the house and leader of the family. And I now, I don't know why I've got this inclination, but I see that as now my role to sort of look after that, pick up that mantle. And that's what drives me in business and in life, is to be able to protect and provide my family, which obviously is you, Mum, Dad, and my little girl. And that'll obviously grow as I have a new family.
Go Elon Musk mode.
Nah, God, no. But I think it's important for men to go through that rite of passage, don't you think?
Yeah, no, I completely, I do agree. And he, you know, like you said, I've got complete respect for him, love him more than anything in the world. And, you know, there's times where we're going to butt heads, which we do, and disagree on stuff and agree on other stuff. And, you know, I think you've just got to, like anyone with a parent that's older, that you just look after them, respect them, and try and do what you can, like they were doing for us when we've been kids and we've been growing up. You know, like, they both probably get more, well, they definitely get more stressed with certain things now because they're older, and it's their tolerance is obviously, you know, a lot lower, I suppose, than it's been in the past in certain areas. But, you know, like, I think it was, when was it? It was maybe a couple of months ago. Like Dad was saying, he was doing the garden, like at his house, and he was a family house. And I was like, "Oh, do you need any help?" And he was like, "Yeah, oh, yeah, if you mind." I was like, so I went around a bit like you're saying, like you take a role of trying to look after rather than be looked after. But, you know, it's important, as you say, yeah, to have that, to go through that rite of passage. I do agree, yeah, 100%.
I think the next one is, where do you see your role in the greater family? Because we've got a strange family. Both our mum and dad, they have a brother on my mum's side, multiple brothers and sisters on my dad's. They don't really have that big family, so we want to create, a family that sort of works. Where do you see your role fitting?
Mediating a lot more. I feel like, you got two people, you're very similar to dad, for example, and leaving you two in a room together, I think there can be like little things that happen like day by day, and then eventually it can come to a blow. And I think if you've not got someone there to kind of calm things down, it ends up, families can get, I don't think it would go to that, but can get split up because people are just too stubborn. It's like, well, no, I'm right. And it's like, no, I'm right. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. You can't have a conversation, like going back to communication. If no one's going to communicate because both people are right, what on earth do you do then?
Just admit that I'm right.
Well, this is it. So, like you've got to have someone there that can mediate. It's why we've got diplomats, I suppose. So I see myself as kind of a lot more similar to mum, really, but with a bit more of a stern hand, but still able to articulate a point and saying, yeah, look, I think we need to just calm things down, hear both sides and go, look, actually, he said this like that, and I think that's fair enough. And no, I think you're going a bit in on that. So you're right on that one and not that one. So like we kind of got some middle ground here to have, a talk and talk things through and get over it. But then, obviously I want to have my own family as well and have kids 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever the number may be. Populate with as many barkers as we can. But yeah, no, that's, continuing on the legacy of the family tree and, have a big family. And when birthdays or Christmases and things like that happen, you can have like a bigger family come together, because we never really had it, even with grandparents. We didn't really have grandparents because both our granddads passed away before we were born. And the other two were just like witches. One's passed away and the other one is just a bit narcissistic. Yeah. So it'd be nice that...
It's Halloween actually coming up at the time of filming this in exactly a week and 2 days. So she's cooking up a potion and flying around on a stick
and with
a pointed hat on.
And a poisonous apple. But it's nice that you can see Aria with grandparents. And I suppose we were at that phase. But, as she gets older, you'll see that, Aria spent time with grandparents that actually care rather than what we had. So the long-term family is, nice to have grandparents.
I don't know, the grandparents on a mum's side are a pair of wankers. So who knows? But no, I've enjoyed today. I just wanted to get I wanted to pick your brains on a couple of the dynamics that are happening, because I think now I'm hitting 30 this year, it's clear to see
having a midlife crisis.
Absolutely, call it that. No, I think it's important to reflect. I think in your 20s, you spend a lot of time as a guy going through the motions of learning, making a lot of mistakes, doing stupid things with friends, spending time on holidays, drinking, partying, learning, growing, not really having a pot to piss in for most of us in your 20s, but it's about going through that reflective period. And I think everybody should spend more time taking inventory into their lives and reflecting back on certainly the last 6 months, 12 months, and then going back even further, 5 months, 5 years, 10 years, because people are so quick to shoot themselves down and say, I haven't done anything, or I haven't achieved anything, or I haven't worked on anything. And that's because their time horizon isn't long enough. If I go back to me in my 20s, when I've just turned 20, this time 10 years ago, I was 19, nearly 20.
Jesus.
It's a scary thought to go back to that. I mean,
should we put a photo of you when you were 19?
You can do, yeah. I'll stick it in. Birdie, I'll send one over. Not an embarrassing one, please.
It's all right. We could put one of me at 19 as well. Mine will be worse.
Probably. But it's an interesting exercise that I think everyone should do, is to take a self-account of themselves from a period of time, 5 years, 10 years, and look back at what you've achieved and decide whether you're proud, and decide what you would do to course correct, and decide what you then can do in the coming year, 5 years, 10 years, because I want to spend my 30s now. I think it's the prime of a man's life, those 10 years from 30 to 40, because you're old enough to know who you are. You're old enough to have your shit together. I would hope so. I know a few people in their 30s that really need to get a move.
Haven't even got a job.
Yeah, it's bad. But that year is when men really step into their own and they become that dominant member of the family, and they do start to take the role of protector and provider, not only in their own family potentially, but in their birth family, like the whether that's actual birth parents or whether it's guardians, whoever it might be, whoever's looked after you. You then step into that role and it switches over. Whereas in your 20s, certainly for our generation, it's taken a lot longer for people to grow up, because I don't think people are not moving out. They're still living at home. They're in that period of not really knowing what they want to do. Whereas, again, I go back probably 30 years, 40 years, people were moving out at 18, 19. People got themselves into a job or a career pretty quickly, and that was it. They were set and off they went. So from 18 to 22 probably was that fun pissing about years. And then from 22, 23, it was like, right, well, I've got a house, I've got a job, I've got a career. I'm off at the races. Whereas now it's like 27, 28, people are still living at home with their mum washing their pants.
It's about taking responsibility. People don't seem to want to take responsibility anymore because they don't need to, because it's hard to take responsibility. So the minute that you become, to go and buy a house, you've got to pay bills. You've got to keep on top of them. Make sure you're not going to be overdrawn. Make sure your money's in your bank. Make sure you continue with your job. Like, work hard. Like, keep it clean. And all these things require a lot of effort. And if you're not willing to put the effort in, then you're not going to do it. And if you don't need to, which a lot of people don't feel like they do anymore, because they've just got no passion to do so, it's inevitable we end up where we are.
I like it. Good place to end.
There we go.
It's a little insight into the Barker family.
We're just going to kill each other off camera in a minute.
It's all fake. No, it's nice. I think everybody should take some time to reflect and take inventory of their lives, and whether it's a 1 year period, 5, 10, just spend a bit of time looking back, look at what you've achieved, look at what you've done. A lot of people I find that are self-critical generally tend to look at themselves glass half empty, that they've not achieved or done anything. Have a look. I reckon if you went back 5 years, you'd have done a lot more than you thought. And if you haven't, pull your finger out your arse, do something and get moving, and make a plan for the next 5 years so that they're not a repeat of the previous 5. But I hope you liked a bit of the insights into our personal family life. It's a bit unorthodox at times, as you can see. But I hope you liked listening. Please remember, subscribe, like, and we'll see you in the next video.